Breakfast with James Williams and Dot Davis. And rescue talks will restart today to try to save jobs at British Steel in Scunthorpe. Now, the site is home to the UK's only remaining blast furnaces after, of course, Tata closed its furnaces at Port Talbot 6 months ago. Now, British Steel's Chinese owner says that the plant isn't financially sustainable. They claim they're losing £700,000 a day. Well, the BBC understands that the UK government is offering to buy the coal to keep the plant operational. And yesterday, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, said all options are on the table, including nationalising British Steel.
This government recognises the importance of those jobs in Scunthorpe and in the local area, and we're doing everything we can to preserve those jobs and to support those communities.
Let's talk now to Carrie, who is the UK steel editor for Callanish Commodities, an organisation that provides news, data, market intelligence on commodities, including steel. Bore da. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning.
It is crunch time in these negotiations, it seems.
Yeah, it really is. The government are still in discussions with the company about this, and these talks have gone on for a long time, but we know that British Steel have started their workers' consultation, and now it seems they are trying to reportedly preserve their raw materials and perhaps idle a furnace, but it seems their crunch time is here and the government is looking to step in.
As you'd expect, we followed every twist and turn of the negotiations and the eventual closure of the blast furnaces when it came to the Tata Steel site in Port Talbot. It seems that there are similarities with what's going on in Scunthorpe.
Yeah, there definitely are similarities. Tata got 500 million of government funding, accepted that, and it also has provided 750 million of its own for its transformations to these electric arc furnaces. British Steel reportedly offered the same 500 million and rejected it. They reportedly wanted 1 billion. So double the funds, where you can see that perhaps the government wouldn't be willing to give that much money. But as you said, British Steel say they're losing £700,000 a day. And that is obvious in its most recent results. It is making a massive loss each year. Tata also, when it was looking for these funds, said it was losing around £1 million a day. So, yeah, both companies facing massive losses and needing to move away from their current technology.
So are you getting the sense that the Chinese owner of British Steel in Scunthorpe, Jingye, is actually maybe quite keen to leave the site?
I think the issue with British Steel is that the blast furnaces are ageing, and there have been repeated outages. Even early this year, it only just brought one blast furnace back online that had been offline since the summer. And British Steel acknowledge that, these assets are old. They are massive environmental costs. It is facing and will continue to face with carbon costs. So the site itself, regardless of the owners, it needs modernising.
What about the discussions? Well, we've heard from ministers, including the Chancellor, including the Prime Minister in recent days. They're talking about all options being on the table, including potentially nationalising the site. Now, when it came to Tata Steel in Port Talbot, that was dismissed out of hand as a possibility. Why the different take, then, when it comes to British Steel in Scunthorpe?
I'm not sure, but there is a huge amount of jobs on the line here, and it would look really bad for the government for this blast furnace to be taken offline, for these jobs to go. And these discussions, as we said, have been going on a long time, whereas clearly with Tata, the discussions came to an agreement and the funding was agreed. So I guess the talks have just gone differently, and there's now a lot more talk as well about national security, dependency. There's obviously, they're planning higher defence spending. So even in the last 6 months, the world is in a slightly different place. So not wanting that blast furnace to go down now has a lot more importance for the government.
Well, it could well be the situation that before long we could be one of the few, if only, developed countries in the world that doesn't have the capacity to make virgin steel, as it's known, steel from scratch, essentially, with the electric arc furnaces that we're going to have in Port Talbot and potentially in Scunthorpe, you can only recycle steel. How much of a concern is it that we could be in that position very shortly?
Yeah, this is a topic that has started to dominate the conversation. But in America, they use electric arc furnaces for their high-grade automotive steel using scrap, and they have no issues with it. So there are technologies in place, and British Steel have previously said, even once they move to these electric arc furnaces, that they could import direct reduced iron if needed for any grades that they weren't able to make. And recently, the government said it was also reviewing a direct reduced iron plant as well, and the feasibility of that. So you could still use that material in an arc furnace and produce similar grades. And there's also Tata Steel are doing a lot of work with universities to see what grades they need to work on or what grades they can't make. But it's part of the discussion about moving to this newer technology, what will and won't they be able to make. And it doesn't seem that there's any real glaring issues that there aren't alternative feedstocks for.
Well, those rescue talks will restart